The most common question I get is, you mean I can't do this in Mexico? Like, people don't realize that the process actually starts outside of the country and that they have to go to a consulate and get approved and then finish the process in Mexico. Like, they think that they're doing it in Mexico, and that's not the case.
Hi everyone, Taniel here from Retirement in Mexico podcast. If you've been thinking about making Mexico your new home, whether it's for retirement, lifestyle, or just a fresh start, you're not going to want to miss this interview. I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Gabrielle Smith, who moved to Mexico City from the United States over 5 years ago, and she's an immigration specialist. She's helped hundreds of Americans, Canadians, and people from all around the world obtain their Mexican residency. I've got a long list of questions for her. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get through all of them in one interview. This might be a two-parter. I'm going to ask her about how to get started, costs involved, paperwork, all the different consulates throughout the United States to see if any of them are different. They all require the same thing. Tons of questions, what to do once you have a residency, you move to Mexico, other extra steps and things for people to consider, any pitfalls. The list goes on and on. So I think definitely this will be a two-parter. Don't miss it. Subscribe. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Retirement in Mexico podcast, your guide to a life of sun, sand, and possibility. If you've ever dreamed of spending your golden years under the warm Mexican sun, surrounded by breathtaking beaches, rich culture, and an exciting community, you're in the right place. We're here to guide you every step of the way with expert insights, inspiring stories, and everything you need to know to make your move with confidence. The best chapter of your life is yours to create. Let's do this. Gabrielle, good morning. Thank you so very much for making yourself available for our podcast today.
Good morning, Taniel. Thank you for having me. It's so lovely to see you again.
It's been a few months since the webinar, right?
Yeah, quite a few. Probably more because I was traveling for a bit and been busy with work. So here we are.
Yeah. And your hair's longer. It looks great.
Thanks. Yeah, that or I just took it down because I usually wear it up. People are always surprised. They're like, oh, I didn't realize you had so much hair.
Well, it looks very nice. So, Gabrielle, for our viewers who don't know you, could you please share with us who you are, where you're from, and what are you doing in Mexico City?
Absolutely. So my name is Gabriela here in Mexico. I always have to clarify because here in Mexico, Gabrielle is my male cousin. A lot of people know me as Dr. G. I am the founder of Dr. G Consulting Group. We are a full-service relocation agency. We focus on immigration procedures, helping people relocate to Mexico City, getting settled in, all the stuff that comes with relocating. And the services that we don't provide, we have vetted partners. So I have realtors that I work with. I have moving companies that I work with, all those sort of things. So lawyers that I work with to set up businesses. I've been in Mexico City for 5.5 years. Just took my citizenship exam in March. So really excited, waiting on that to come through. It's a long process. And originally from Arizona, I studied abroad here in college and really fell in love with it. And that's what brought me back to Mexico in 2020.
Well, right during the time of the pandemic.
Yes.
Good timing.
January 2nd of 2020, I came back.
Wow. And you've been helping people, foreigners, with their immigration ever since?
No, I actually came down for a job and was doing that job for about 2.5 years and I learned how to do the immigration stuff kind of in between. I was doing that as a little side business. And then due to the pandemic, that word that we all wouldn't forget, I was laid off from the job due to that. And so then I started doing this more as a full business.
Okay. So explain to us, what are the different types of residency that's available for foreigners, and how should someone choose which path is right for them?
If you're just a regular foreigner from outside of Mexico with no ties to Mexico, like no Mexican spouse, no Mexican-born child, no Mexican-born parents, the main route to residency is via economic solvency, and that is where you go to the consulate, you make enough income to be approved, and then Mexico grants you temporary residency based on your financials. You can also get permanent residency immediately, but that is less common unless you are above the age of 60 and or can show proof of retirement or just have a crazy amount of money that you can prove to the consulate, and you go to a consulate that's a little bit more flexible with that retirement age requirement.
Okay. Talk about the Mexican consulate. I've been hearing like different consulates, their rules are a little different. And if that's the case, then why? I mean, it's a federal thing. So why would all these consulates have like little separate different rules?
Have you ever heard the term about anything that happens in Mexico, the only consistency you're going to get is inconsistency?
It's life in general.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm just talking about.
Exacerbated here. You know, in regards to why they're like that I cannot tell you. In regards to if they're like that, 100%. I'll have clients, you know, I do pre-consultations, clients that are like, I want to get residency. How do I start? And I'll explain the consulate process, how to get the appointment, what they typically expect. But every consulate has different requirements. For example, here's one thing that clients find a lot variation in. So some consulates require you to get your bank statements like authorized by the bank. So like a wet statement from the banker or from the bank stating you are the owner of this account. Well, in this day of online banking, that's really hard to do, right? So a lot of people have a difficulty doing that, and they just go and find the consulate that doesn't require that.
Well, what do you mean? Like the bank statement has to be printed out at the bank, or what do you mean?
Like the bank, they want some sort of like a stamp from the bank, or like you know, literally a wet signature, like a signed with a pen, wet signature from a banker. Yeah.
Who does that?
Correct.
It's not very common.
Yeah. This is something that, you know, it's been coming up more and more. I think, honestly, it's in reaction to, maybe not in reaction to, it might be preventative of people falsifying documents. Who knows? I don't know what the rationale is behind that, but I don't know what the rationale is.
Some of the consulates that are requiring this, is that what it is?
Yeah, some of them. So you can qualify based on income or on savings, right? So income, you have to show a set amount per month after taxes, and that varies by consulate. Our logic or our rationale for that is that we think that the day that consulate did their numbers, the exchange rate was different, you know, so that's why it varies so much. I don't know. Each consulate has a number. It's for this year, it's approximately a little under 4,500 USD
Per month.
That you have.
Is that for temporary residency?
That's for temporary residency. For permanent, it's like 7,500. So for temporary residency, if you're going on income, it requires 6 months of 4,500 USD per month, a little less. Some places are almost as low as 4,100, but I don't know which ones those are off the top of my head. But here's another variation. So some places want a letter, some consulates want a letter from your HR stating that you are a remote employee. Some just want a letter from HR stating that you are in good standing. Some want a letter from HR stating that you are a remote employee with authorization to work anywhere in the world. So there's such a wide variety. Some of them don't even look at your deposits. They don't look at the letter. They just look at your pay stubs, and that's all they care about. So each consulate, there's such a wide variety that I definitely encourage and emphasize, like really kind of beat this into my clients' heads. Like, you need to consulate shop, and you also really need to be clear with the consulates, because it's not always, they have a list usually on their website, and on that list, or if you email them, they'll send you a list. And you can get there with everything on that list, and then they're like, oh, but you also need this, this, and this. So I'm like, ask them specifically, do I need X document? You know, ask them specifically. If you do not see it, do my bank statements need to be notarized, whatever? So those are some of the things that people need to be aware of. Always go in over prepared is what I say.
Yeah, absolutely. That's happened to me on several occasions. At the immigration years ago, or going to the bank, they give you a list of documents they need for one reason or another, and then you provide everything. And like, oh, we forgot you also need this. Well, it wasn't on the list. Yeah, it's something new, but you need it. So you kind of are doing this zigzag back and forth. It's a little frustrating, but it is what it is. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah, that's also happening. I don't want to jump ahead, actually. Really quickly, let me talk about not permanent residency, but residency via savings. So you can do it by income. If you don't have the income, or if you do have the income, but you're going somewhere that is going to require a ton of letters, a letter from your employer, or a letter from this, that, and next thing, and you have the savings to qualify, I would just go with the savings option, right? So the savings option is approximately 75,000 USD. It varies by consulate. Ending balance for the last 12 months. So that balance has to be the same. It's not an average. So, say you, I don't know, had 120,000, you bought a car, you chipped some money out. Well, I don't know if you're buying $60,000 cars for moving to Mexico, I don't know. Say you had the money, you had to pay for something big, paid for a wedding. I don't know. 1 month it dropped down to 65,000, but then the next month it went back up to 120,000 because your friends love you that much. They give you that much money in gifts for your wedding. That's not going to count. Like that month you're going to have to start back over at when you had the required amount.
So they want 12 months in a row? Is that what it is?
Consecutive months.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's going to be tough for a lot of people.
It is. It's getting tougher and tougher, really getting tougher and tougher. And I tell people, if you want, because the requirements also change each year. This year, they actually went down a little bit due to the exchange rate. As last year, we were like 16.5 to 1 around this time. We're down to 19, 18 point something right now. But in January, it was like 21, 22. So they adjusted for the exchange rate. And now next year, depending on what the exchange rate is, they might readjust again. But it is getting harder and harder. When I started doing this, the requirements were like $2,400 a month and $48,000 in savings. But the number is based on Mexican minimum wage, which has been going up significantly, which is great for locals, right? It's great that the government is starting to take care of the people in that sense, but then it's making it harder for foreigners to come. So,
Gabrielle, what about assets? What if someone owns a house?
A house in Mexico or a house in the United States?
Well, let's talk both. I mean, does it matter?
A house in the United States isn't going to do anything unless you sell it. So what I've had some people do is they know they want to come down here. They know they're going to net, $300,000 off the sale of their house. They sell their house, they rent for 12 months, or they come down here, for 6 months. Go back, whatever. And then they have that $300,000 sitting in the bank for those 12 months. And then they go and then they show that they have the financials. But showing that you own your house outright in the US isn't going to get you anything.
If you have like a stock portfolio, I mean, you don't have the cash, but you've got the stocks that are worth X amount. I don't know, $200,000. Does that count?
Yes. So savings/investments. Now, investments, depending on which office you go to, some of them, it has to be like a stock portfolio, right? Some of them will take, say, an IRA or a 401k, even if you are under retirement age. Some of them will not because they're like, well, you're not retired. Like, this isn't your money yet, even though it is. And if, worst came to worst, you could always take it out with a penalty, blah, 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 blah. They won't count it. A lot of offices will, but some will not count a 401k or an IRA for like a 40-year-old. You would have to show that you were actually pulling from it, that you were retired and whatever. But yeah, you do. Stocks, it doesn't have to be like just money sitting in a savings account or even your checking account. It can be investments as well.
And what about if you own property in Mexico?
If you own property in Mexico, there is one route. You have to show, I'm really bad at remembering this number because it's so uncommon. You have to show that you own it outright, you have the deed or whatever, and that you own it outright and it has a value of, it's really high. I feel like it's 600,000 USD equivalent. It might be less than that, but I think it's around 600,000 USD equivalent and that it's paid for in cash. There are very few consulates that actually use that route.
Okay. And for permanent residents, you're saying they need to show income of $7,500 a month?
$7,500 a month, yep.
Or their investments would be how much in savings?
$250.
$250.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if they own a property in Mexico, it's still around $600,000.
So my understanding, the last time I checked, in order to do the property option, will only get you temporary residency.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. God, things have changed a lot because, I got my residency, I think it was in 2005. And at that time, you would apply to the immigration office here in Mexico, in Puerto Vallarta. And the financial requirement was virtually nothing.
Yeah.
But it just seems like Mexico's trying to weed out people that are basically,
going to be a burden on
They're going to be a burden on the economy. Yeah. I mean, I think the States has requirements too and all over the world. So it just seems like they're kind of tightening the rules there. So they don't become a burden over here, right?
I mean, there's like rumor. So there's two ways of calculating the requirements. There's the one that's done at immigration. I'm sorry, at the consulate, and then there's one that's done at immigration here. And the one that's done at immigration here is much lower. You can't qualify here within Mexico, but they do use financials for a few things here in Mexico. And when you have that, the calculation they use is completely different, and it's much, much lower. There's been rumors, or people always talk about, like, why are they not using that calculation at the consulate? So it would make so much more sense, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know. We've been seeing a lot of changes in regards to how the consulates are working, in regards to how things are being handled at immigration. We just have to kind of wait and see. I mean, hopefully they'll ease up a little bit, because I know, sadly, I know a bunch of people that are like teachers that were, I had a former Spanish teacher. She's 65, she's retired, but she's a Spanish teacher. I mean, I was a Spanish teacher in the US my entire career too. Like, my pension would have been $1,800 a month or nothing, because... And this poor woman had dreamt her entire life of retiring in Mexico, and she can't qualify. She doesn't have, she doesn't have the $4,500 a month. And there really aren't any other options for her. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, because there are.
Well, maybe she's just going to have to go back and forth every 6 months, with their tourist card, I guess.
Yeah, but they even, that also is tracked now. And so, you can come in 3 times, get 180, and then the third time you come in, they're like, you live here, here's 3 days, go back and get your residency or find somewhere else to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
The kind of news, as they say. What's the one thing most people think they know about getting residency in Mexico, but they're totally off the mark and they're wrong?
The most common question I get is, you mean I can't do this in Mexico? Like, people don't realize that the process actually starts outside of the country, and that they have to go to a consulate and get approved and then finish the process in Mexico. Like, they think that they're doing it in Mexico, and that's not the case.
Those are the old days, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue then, because I want to ask you, so if you could walk us through the typical process of applying for residency, like how long does it take? What's the first step? What documents do they need? How you come into the picture to help guide them to make sure they get this thing done the right way and not get stuck.
Yeah. Absolutely. So my agency typically works with clients after they've gotten their visas. We don't necessarily assist with the consulate side, but we will guide people on how to get started with the consulate end of things, if that makes sense. So the number one step is to, decide that you want to come down here and make sure you meet the financial requirements. Then from there, you're going to need to get an appointment at the consulate. So you want to find a consulate that you can meet their requirements. So, you can provide the documentation they're requesting, etc. Now, here's another misconception, actually. One misconception a lot of people have is that they have to go to the consulate that serves their area, or like in their, in their city. That's actually not the case. Like, some consulates are jurisdictional. For example, a lot of the West Coast consulates. Like, if you want to go to the Seattle consulate, you have to be within Seattle's jurisdiction, right? But if you're from Seattle and Seattle isn't responding, or you don't meet you can go anywhere else you want that is not jurisdictional. You've got other offices. Boise, Idaho is really close to Seattle. A lot of people use it. There are a lot of offices that are not jurisdictional, so they'll take anybody from outside their zip code that they serve, right? And then you have the opposite, where you have a lot of jurisdictional ones. Seattle, Oregon, a lot of California, some of the East Coast, etc. Dallas, for some reason, has always been very jurisdictional, yet the rest of Texas is not, for the most part. So consulate, that's when I say consulate, use the word consulate shopping, right? Like, just looking for a consulate where you can get in, where you have the right documentation, where they'll take you. Some consulates are, known for being friendlier or easier to work with, and others are stricter or have...
Yeah, so let me just ask you a question on that. As of today, in your experience, which consulates seem to be a bit more friendly and easier to work with? And which consulates recently you found to be kind of challenging and difficult?
This changes, I swear, by the day.
Yeah, I get it. That could change tomorrow, but as of right now.
Phoenix has been pretty great to work with. A lot of positive reviews coming out of Phoenix. Vegas. Vegas has been kind of the golden child for a long time. There was a period where they were not approving people because they had not spent enough time in Mexico, or as much time in Mexico as they wanted people to be spending, which actually, in my opinion, is fair because, why are you gonna, how are you asking for residency somewhere that you've never even been or you haven't been? But that chatter has kind of gone away. And then Boise, Vegas, Phoenix. Tucson's really nice. The only thing with Tucson is you have to go by physically with your documentation. They review it and then they'll give you an appointment. So if you're not from the area, you have to make 2 trips to Tucson. And being from Phoenix, I don't know why anyone would want to make 2 trips to Tucson. Some of the Texas offices, Houston has lately been really easy to work with. The East Coast tends to be a little bit more difficult, with the exception of New Brunswick, New Jersey. They've also gotten some really high reviews. They even have almost 4 stars on their Google page.
We have a lot of clients, Chicago in particular, but throughout California. Do you know anything about the consulate in Chicago and other parts of California?
Chicago is a good consulate to work with. They do require a little bit more documentation. Chicago and New York City, I believe, are the only 2 that I know of where they do not approve you right then and there. They take 10 days. So if you're not from the area, it's hard because you go through the interview, and then they come back. They call you in to come pick up your passport with the visa in it, or to come back and get your visa put in your passport. Neither of them are jurisdictional, so that's good. California, the easiest one in California, I would say, would be Fresno. They seem to get a lot of really positive reviews. Majority, other than Fresno and Calexico, the rest of California is jurisdictional. So there's Sacramento, San Francisco, San Jose, which will, as far as I understand, they will take people from, Sacramento will take someone that lives in San Francisco, et cetera. But you couldn't, say, live in San Diego and try and go to San Francisco. You'd have to either go to San Diego if you want to stay right there, go down to Calexico, go up to Fresno, or go to Phoenix or Vegas.
Well, this is good to know because I think that'll help a lot of people, a lot of time and frustration if they're able to fly to a different consulate outside of their hometown. But
yeah, absolutely. As long as they, exactly what they need, they have all of the right paperwork, so they don't take a trip somewhere and then we're like, oh, no, sorry, you're missing something. Yeah, exactly. One of my clients, who's also a friend, she is from England. She went to the Mexican embassy in London. Luckily, she was already there for something, but, she gets to her appointment and they're like, no, we need this, this, and this. And so she called her assistant. She got it all together. She ran, picked it up, printed it out, ran back to the office. So yeah, sometimes it can be really stressful. Sometimes it can be super easy peasy. It just, inconsistency.
So are there any recent changes in the immigration laws or requirements that expats need to be aware of? Are there any changes that you're aware of that's coming on the horizon?
In regards to initial qualifications, no. In regards to things like renewals or obtaining your residency in country via ties to a Mexican, this is where the biggest thing has come up. So renewals. So when you apply, say you're a couple and say the wife is the primary applicant, and then she brings in the husband and the 2 children as her dependents because she makes enough to cover all 4 of them, right? At renewal, they have now been they've been calling it a family unity renewal and not just a standard renewal. And so they've been asking for things like apostilled birth certificates, apostilled marriage certificates.
For the renewal.
For the renewal, yeah. And this happened overnight. We had 2 clients. We went in for the renewal, and the husband was the primary. The wife was the dependent. They live here, or actually live across the street from me. And they said, no, this is a family unity. And I said, but she qualified with him at the consulate. She has a visa in her passport. And they're like, but she's still his dependent. We need the apostilled marriage certificate, which they did not have because they didn't need that to qualify to begin with. Luckily they had a trip planned to the US, but we had to get her an exit visa. Or an exit permit. They went to Arizona, had to get their Texas marriage certificate apostilled, which is a whole nightmare because Texas will not apostille a document if it's more than 5 years old. They've been married for 38. It was a whole ordeal.
Wow.
They came back and went to immigration and got she was able to renew her card. But, it just came up out of nowhere. And there are 2 Americans. Now, if you have an American or, whatever, non-Mexican, married to a Mexican or with a Mexican-born child, they're now doing an intensive, in some cities, they're doing home visits, they're doing, all these different things to prove that the relationship is, legit.
Real.
They are also taking more time to verify that those documents are not falsified and that they actually are, real in the system, that they've been granted by, civil registry, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have if you're married to a Mexican or you have a child born in Mexico, which is a little bit easier because, you show up with the child, that it's real. But in regards to the marriage, that's where they do interviews like they do in a lot of other countries. They're just kind of starting to be a little stricter.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I think, one of many reasons why someone should work with a professional, like an immigration specialist or an immigration attorney, because rules are changing all the time.
All the time.
And like you said, depending on which immigration office you go to, which consulate you go to, you'll get something different. And if you don't know how to navigate through the waters or have someone help you, you can kind of get stuck and frustrated.
Yeah.
And, you have sleepless nights. And so I think it's so important for things like this, especially to have the right team behind you that can help you navigate through these hurdles that just popped up out of nowhere.
Right. 100%. For example, I have a family renewing and luckily they contacted me with enough time. I was like, hey, who was the initial, they have children. So obviously there was a dependent involved because children can't qualify on their own. It's 2 spouses. I was like, was there, who was the primary and they did. They had 1 primary and then the 3 dependents. And like, we need to get your stuff. We need to get the birth certificates, the marriage certificate. We need to get it apostilled. We need to get it translated because they're likely going to ask for that at immigration. But if they do and you don't have it, then you're not going to renew, or you could potentially lose your residency and have to start all over, or, something like that.
Gabrielle, you've been doing this for how many years now?
About 4 years.
Okay, about 4 years. Yep. So over the last 4 years, have you noticed any interesting trends? Are you seeing more young people that are working remotely moving here, more families? Are people moving for political reasons or lifestyle reasons? Have you noticed any differences from 4 years ago to now?
A ton. So when I started doing this, we were smack in the middle of the pandemic, right? And Mexico is one of the only countries that was open. And so a lot of people were here and they had been here doing the, digital nomad, tourist, FMN thing. And they were like, I don't know when I'm going to be leaving, or I really do love Mexico. I want to get legal. So I had a lot of younger clients back then. I had a lot more clients from kind of all over the world, Canadians, Australia. I was getting clients from everywhere, not just from the US. I still had a lot of digital nomads coming through, or, just younger people that were living here or wanting to move here permanently. Right now, I would say that majority of my clients are either retirees or middle-aged folks like us that are planning the future, or families that are just either for political reasons getting out or wanting to just give their children an intercultural experience, a worldwide experience. They're coming here, they've been, they spent a summer here and they loved it. And they're like, ooh, we want to, come there for a year, get our kids registered in school, let them be bilingual. And then, then we'll decide what to do in a couple of years. But for now, so I had kind of have the gamut, but I definitely have seen, well, partially because of the financial requirements, when you're a freelancing digital nomad that doesn't make necessarily the dilemma with the financial requirements, because I'll have clients that'll message me and be like, hey, listen, 1 month I'll make $12,000, but then I don't make any money for another month and a half. And you can't, I'm like, you gotta somehow put that money into savings and save it up, because you have to show consistent income, right? So definitely seen the gamut change. But right now I have a lot of families.
Yeah, that seems to be a theme that I've been hearing a lot because I've been interviewing professionals from like agents, relocation specialists all throughout Mexico, some of the more popular resort destinations specifically. And a lot of them are saying there are a lot of families that are moving down here with their kids, putting them in school so they could have that multicultural experience. Also, of course, economic reasons, especially with a lot of retirees. Now we're getting Gen X people that are, maybe 10 plus years away from retirement. So they're thinking about living abroad or having investment property. And we're getting some people moving for political reasons. They're just kind of tired of the political circus that's been going on, north of the border. And they're just kind of over it, they just want to be bombarded with that every single day of their life.
Exactly. So kind of live in a cave and not really know everything that's going on all the time. Kind of nice.
Once someone becomes a resident, what would you say are some like important next steps they need to take?
So if they become a temporary resident, one of the things they need to make sure of is that they renew the residency after a year. That's something we haven't really touched on, that temporary residency leads you to permanent residency. Like you get your temporary residency, it's good for a year. And then after 1 year, you can renew for up to 3 years. And after those 3 years, you convert to permanent. So it's not like you get granted temporary residency and it's for life. Like you're on the path to permanent residency.
Your retirement in Mexico starts right here. And we're excited to be part of your journey. Every episode, we bring you the magic of Mexico, insider tips, and expert advice to help you take that next big step with confidence. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps others like you discover the endless possibilities waiting south of the border. You got a topic you'd like for us to cover? We'd love to hear from you. Send your suggestions to info@tanielchamsian.com. And remember, a life well lived isn't left to chance. It's created with intention. See you next time.